A sword technique connects heaven and earth, and I will do it myself in front of the gate of eternal life. Is it possible to achieve immortality through various paths and spells? Shu Mountain, plus, Immortal Hu, traditional immortal and chivalrous, without system. Keywords of the novel. Changsheng. Starting from the Hulu sword technique with no pop-ups, Changsheng. Starting from the Hulu sword technique. Download the complete set of TXT, Changsheng. Starting from the Hulu sword technique. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Divine Talismans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Divine Talismans Qixian Shenzhou. Near Jinghu, two monks, one old and one young, were seen taking big strides along the official road. It is not accurate to say that they are all monks. The old one looks 70 or 80 years old, with white beard and hair. Apart from being in good spirits, there is nothing magical about his appearance. Although he was young, he was strange. He looked 12 or 13 years old, but he had ape arms and waist, a red and white face, and was very handsome. Although he was wearing patchwork clothes, he had not shaved his head, and his long hair was gathered behind his head. Between his eyebrows and eyes, there was a strong aura of evil energy overflowing, and he didn't look like a person from a Buddhist sect. I remember there was a tea stall ahead, but I'm not sure if it's still there. Please take a few steps and go ahead to rest. The old monk looked old, but his words were full of energy, and he couldn't tell the fatigue of the long journey. But it was the young man with long hair and a monk's robe, with a gloomy expression on his face. Old monk, you are really not kind. Even though you have supernatural powers that can travel millions of miles a day, you have to use your feet to travel. Now, you have the same idea. When you release your mind, you can observe patterns on your palm for 100 miles, but you don't need to. I can tell you, when I am growing my body now, whether or not there is that tea stall, I have to rest before walking. If I am tired, I won't be able to grow taller. The old monk didn't care about the boy's disrespect, but instead laughed and said, "You young man, you don't understand good people's hearts. I went to Jinghu this time to stop the old dragon from walking and transforming into a dragon, which is an unparalleled merit. Sharing it with you will be of great benefit to your future cultivation. But now, I still suffer from your complaints. As a true person, my heart is not ancient, no wonder Buddha only crossed paths with destined people." Upon hearing the old monk say so, Su Li looked at him with a resentful expression and said, "You talk about cultivation every day, and I want to worship you as my teacher. But you don't agree. I want to go find immortals on my own, but you don't want to. What do you think, old monk? Su Li is not from this world. 3 years ago, he went to visit Mount Immate and accidentally got lost. Somehow, his size became smaller and smaller. By the time he finally walked out of the mountains, he had already changed his world. Afterwards, Su Li almost died of cold and hunger due to his inability to speak and being less than 10 years old, with no means to support himself. Fortunately, he was taken in by the old monk and managed to survive. Don't be fooled by Su Li's lack of respect towards the old monk, it's just because he has already reached a state of selflessness and non-existence, and getting along with him in this way is actually closer. In fact, in his heart, Su Li had long regarded him as the closest person in the world. The two of them spoke at a faster and faster pace. Although the old monk had never taught Su Li the true cultivation method, he taught him a whole body of foundational skills. In terms of physical strength and skills, ordinary people in the martial arts world really couldn't match him. Turning around the foot of a mountain, I saw the tea stall mentioned by the old monk at a glance. The old monk's footsteps gradually slowed down, and then he sighed and touched Su Li's head, saying, "You have excellent aptitude and wisdom, and I also love you very much. However, although Buddhism is vast, it is difficult to cross over those who have no chance. Your fate is not in Buddhism, and I have no choice but to stop you from walking the dragon. However, this time, I also invited a Taoist friend of the Taibai sword sect to help. You should have practiced the Taibai Taoism naturally. I sacrificed my face and helped you become a disciple of this Taoist friend, saving you from going astray. At the end, the old monk knocked 3 times on his forehead. As the 3-year cultivation obsession was about to come true, Su Li suddenly felt a great sense of reluctance in his heart. However, his mind had already matured and he could not become a true child. He just rubbed his forehead and complained, saying, "What kind of method is not cultivation, as long as it can achieve longevity?" Besides, the Taibai sword sect is one of the 7 major sects of Taoism, and the old monk's face may not be effective. The old monk had already cultivated Luhengguo. How could he not know that Su Li's mouth was wrong, and he did not expose it at the moment, but smiled slightly, and the shadow flashed, giving him a brain leap again. "Old monk, you don't talk about martial arts." After ordering a pot of coarse tea, the 2 of them rested for half an hour. The old monk had a conversation with the old woman at the stall and learned about the current situation in Jinghu before starting again. After walking for a while, the 2 finally arrived at a Dragon King temple by Mirror Lake in the evening. This temple is not big, and it covers an area of less than acres. Inside, there are already people, a handsome Taoist looking at 20.7 or 8, and an old man in linen clothes around 60. The 2 of them sat around the fire, grilling unknown meat on top. The aroma filled the entire yard, making Su Li swallow his saliva. When the 2 of them saw Su Li and the old monk, the young Taoist immediately smiled and said, "You old bald donkey, your family wants to subdue that old Qiao and send a message to ask me to help. However, it has been 2 days since I arrived, and you are stuck in time. You are really not worthy of being a human." The old monk also smiled to himself and said, "You can't come either. The old monk didn't beg you to come, this ox knows. This monk clearly has a very good relationship, and there is no courtesy in his speech." The old man on the other side dared not take it too big like the Taoist, so he quickly stood up and saluted, saying, "I have met Zen Master Zhigong." After returning a salute, the old monk introduced to Su Li. "This Niu Nose is the elder of the Taibai sword sect, Qiao Xianzhenren, and also your future master. This is Dr. Ma, and I have come to see him." Su Li bowed and said, "Young generation, Su Li pays respects to Qiao Zhenren and pays respects to Senior Ma." Dr. Ma bowed back, but Qiao Zhenren looked up and down at Su Li and said, "You may have some appearance, but to be a disciple of the poor path, just being good-looking is not enough. Come here, I will test you." Qiao Xian said so, but Su Li didn't move. Instead, he looked at the old monk, who smiled and touched his head, saying, "Your master asked you to go quickly." Listening to the old monk's insistence on practicing the name of his master and disciple, Qiao Xian just smiled and didn't speak, just watching how Su Li would choose. Su Li felt a bit reluctant in his heart, but he also knew that the old monk had profound Taoist skills and was already a person of immortality. Since he said he was not suitable for Buddhism, he probably was not suitable anymore. He then bowed deeply to the old monk and took a few steps forward, bowing to Qiao Xian. "Qiao Zhenren." Qiao Xian didn't say much, just extended a finger and pointed it at Su Li's eyebrow. Su Li felt the warmth in his eyebrow, and a Qi training method called the Hulu sword technique appeared in his divine soul. At this moment, stimulated by this sword technique, Su Li's divine soul suddenly burst into light, and a jade talisman appeared out of thin air. The Gourd sword technique, which was originally thousands of words, only swallowed and became 30.6 illusory talismans. "Is this?" Su Li was greatly shocked in his heart. After crossing over, Su Li discovered that he had clear ears and eyes, was unforgettable by sight, and had a clear spiritual platform. He learned everything very quickly. When learning martial arts with the old monk, he often learned from one thing to the next and drew analogies. He always thought it was because of the changes he had made through time travel, but now he realizes that the source of all this is actually this divine talisman that appeared in the divine soul at some point. Is there really the Ame sect and the long eyebrow immortal Ren show? The combination of Ame Mountain, mysterious talismans, and the mysterious place that can bring people back to life made Su Li have to associate with them. Perhaps I can go back. If this mysterious talisman is really a pure divine talisman, then it is not difficult for the 2E micro dust formation evolved from this talisman to open up a channel between two realms. Thinking about this, Su Li's heart suddenly stirred, and after a moment, it gradually calmed down. Su Li's mind had already turned around, but in the outside world, it was just a blink of an eye. After calming his emotions, Su Li bowed to Qiao Zhenren before retreating to the side and focusing on comprehending the beauty of this new gourd sword technique. Upon seeing this, Qiao Xian nodded slightly in approval, but later ignored it and began discussing the matter of the undulating dragon with the old monk and Dr. Ma. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Hulu Sword Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Hulu Sword Technique. The Hulu Sword Technique is originally a pure gold-based Taoist technique. Although it kills fiercely, it is not good at self-care and is easy to break. When practicing, one can only forge ahead with courage and determination. Once there is a slight setback, it is highly likely to collapse. Even among the Taibai sword sect, there are a few who choose to practice this technique. The gourd sword technique not only requires a high level of understanding before entering. After entering, one also needs great opportunity to use this sword technique to forge ahead and open the door to eternal life. But now, after refining and supplementing what seems to be the Tai Ching One Qi divine talisman, this new gourd sword technique has become a Taoist method of mutual growth of gold and water. At the beginning, as usual, we still focus on refining the aura of hardware and solidify it into a gourd with 10,000 swords. At this stage, we need to apply our entire mind to this gourd with 10,000 swords, thinking about how to refine it and sharpen the cultivation of sword energy. But the new gourd sword technique is different, adhering to the concept of, if you want to use your strength, file your edge first. After cultivating the 10,000 sword gourd, one must use gold to generate water and cultivate an innate and intangible true water sword qi. It should be stored in the 10,000 sword gourd for constant warmth and nourishment. In this way, gold generates water and water nourishes gold. The new gourd sword technique not only has unparalleled sharpness in the gold series, but also the formidable water series. Compared to the original gourd sword technique, this new one is obviously more in line with Taoist philosophy. Su Li tried hard to comprehend the gourd sword technique on his side, but on the other side, the old monk and Qiao Zhenren had an argument. Do you want me to say that I will directly enter Mirror Lake, lift up the nest of this old dragon, pull out his dragon bones, and pull his dragon tendons, and it will not be pleasant? I will have to calculate, and not be straightforward. The Taibai sword sect is unique among the Taoist sections. Its unique sword techniques are not only a way to practice qi and prolong life, but also a means to defeat and protect the Tao. Influenced by the cultivation of sword techniques, the Taibai sword sect, from its elders in charge to its disciples, emphasizes the importance of a sword technique that connects heaven and earth, and wields it to open the door to immortality. In Qiao Xian's eyes, merits and causality are nothing. He was only able to come to Fu Jiao this time because of the old monk. You're always going to fight and kill, no wonder the other 6 sects say you're demons in Taoist robes, and you're absolutely right. After the old monk repeatedly urged, he continued. Although this old dragon is a different species, since being enlightened by the pure young immortal, it has never done any evil. Instead, because of its regulation of the water system, it has made the Jinghu area more favorable. From then on, it has great merit. How can it be killed indiscriminately? The old monk's advice was clearly not heeded by Qiao Xian, who rolled his eyes and retorted. This old dragon has been practicing for thousands of years, and even a pig has developed its mind. This time walking the dragon is related to its success or failure, and it will definitely invite helpers. If it drags on for a long time, it is very easy to capsize in the sewer. At that time, if you don't earn any merit, you will be entangled in cause and effect. I kindly remind you, but you, a bald donkey, are still mocking me. You really don't understand good people. However, if you really have the eloquent ability to turn this old dragon into a dragon and give up walking on it, then just pretend to be a poor person without saying anything. You have such a white nose that you can't afford to lose anything. The old monk laughed and scolded, broke half of the yubing, deep fried round and flat dough cake, in his hand, handed it to Qiao, and then continued. The old monk can't even cross his own daughter, how can someone else have that divine ability to cross? At this point, the old monk looked slightly dejected. He tore a bit of yubing, deep fried round and flat dough cake, and put it into his mouth. For a while, the whole yard was only burning firewood with a sound of crackling. Don't be like that either. Junior brother Zhong has already figured it out. 30 years from now, it will be the time when the old demon's luck is low, and he will have his own words to say. Qiao also knew that he had said the wrong thing, which caused this senior brother's sadness. He then told the story of the Taibai sword sect's attack on the Yen Demon Palace in 30 years. Originally, Master Zhigong was also one of the elders of the Taibai sword sect, and had the best relationship with immortal Qiao. Because the killing of the demon cult was too heavy at the beginning, it led to a group of demons attacking Mount Taibai. Although the Taibai sword sect repelled the demons, it suffered significant damage to itself, and the daughter of Zen Master Zhigong was also abducted by the Yen Demon Emperor in the Yen Demon Palace. This Yen Mo Emperor is also extremely cunning. In order to retaliate against Master Zhigong, he not only did not kill his daughter, but also conferred the title of a saint and personally taught her. He also used the supreme magic technique to change his cognition, causing him to specifically trouble the Taibai sword sect. Zen Master Zhigong was in a dilemma, and in the end, he had no choice but to fall into the scheme of the Yen Demon Emperor and defect from the Taibai sword sect, drawing a clear line with the Taibai sword sect, in order to avoid the disaster of self-destruction. Later on, Zen Master Zhigong realized that he had killed too much, which led to this calamity. In addition, he happened to encounter the Golden Cicada holy monk who was preaching Buddhism in the world. Inspired by him, he abandoned his path and returned to Buddhism. It has been over 100 years since then. Although junior brother Zhong is a genius in heaven, he is the son of Yen Mo. I think he has some consideration, but Zen Master Zhigong didn't finish speaking and shook his head, saying, "It's okay. We'll talk about this later." In addition to you two, the old monk also invited a senior brother from the overseas Tianlong temple. The path of Jiaolong becoming a Taoist is not just about transforming dragons. As long as we are more cautious, this old monk will probably weigh the pros and cons. Qiao couldn't deny it, obviously he still felt that it was best to kill with one sword in his heart. Only then did the nearby Dr. Ma have the opportunity to interject. The Medicine King's Valley has already set up a large formation to dispel miasma and dispel spirits around, which is the golden radiance pill required by Zen masters to avoid poison. Speaking, Dr. Ma took out a golden pill with a green outer layer and golden black soaring inside from his sleeve, and handed it over with both hands. Thanks to Ma Daoyou's contact in the middle, otherwise the old monk really wouldn't know how to deal with the long-lasting poisonous miasma at the bottom of the lake. Zen Master Zhigong praised Dr. Ma and took the poison-avoiding gold shi pill, which could detoxify and dissolve the miasma. There are 4 levels of elixirs in this world: mortal, spiritual, immortal, and divine. Fan Dan, as the name suggests, is a pill specifically designed to treat the pain and illness of ordinary people. Even without cultivation, as long as there is a prescription, it can be refined. Although the spirit pill has the character, spirit, as long as it is a cultivator, many people can refine it themselves, and it is not considered precious. At the first level of the elixir, it is different. Only a master of alchemy can refine it. Among them, the divine pill is rare and rare for thousands of years, and it is a true treasure that can help people live long. There has always been a saying in the world of practice, immortal elixirs lead the way, while divine elixirs aid in longevity. And this poison-avoiding golden radiance pill is the highest grade immortal pill, the most precious pill besides the divine pill. With this pill in hand, not only can it resist all kinds of poison, but it can also turn all kinds of poison into its own use. It is one of the most precious treasures in the Medicine King Valley. Just as Dr. Ma was about to be humble for a few words, a sharp sword intent suddenly hit his eyebrows and eyes, making him unable to resist covering his face with his hand and avoiding his sharpness. "Good kid, you're really born to be the seed of my Taibai sword sect." This sword intent naturally does not come without reason, but is one of the 30.6 talismans refined by Su Li's comprehension of the Gourd sword technique, which emanates from the first metal elemental talisman sword technique. From the first sight of this child, the old monk knew that this child was born to be suitable for practicing the Taoist teachings of the Taibai sword sect. Otherwise, such a good seedling, how could the old monk be willing to let you down? Seeing Su Li quickly comprehend the Zhenpai sword technique of the Taibai sword sect, Zen Master Zhigong was also surprised, but his face showed an expression that he had anticipated. "You have a conscience. If you didn't enter the bald donkey sect, you would have forgotten about the ancestral home of the Taibai sword sect." Qiao Xian nodded and took out a transparent flying sword of 3 inches from his sleeve. With one finger, he broke it off, grabbed the pure hardware essence, and slowly guided it into Su Li's elixir field. Originally, Su Li Ning's hardware elemental talisman sword art only gained its essence, but has not yet gained its form. To truly cultivate it, one will need to spend hard work absorbing the energy of hardware in the future. But now that I have acquired the hardware essence from Flying Sword, the originally illusory hardware elemental talisman sword art has directly condensed into essence. Just a throughput, Su Li's acquired elemental energy, which he had trained for 3 years, immediately transformed into innate true energy. Then, with another throughput, innate true energy poured in, and all that came out became the unique hardware elemental talisman sword energy of the Gourd sword technique. Although the new Gourd sword technique is a golden water technique, it perfectly inherits all the advantages of the old sword technique. At the beginning, it did not focus on richness, but on purity. And this flying sword was originally refined with the purest hardware essence. Even if the quality of Qiao Xian's flying sword was only average, it was not something that disciples like Su Li who had just entered the door of cultivation could obtain. With the help of the hardware essence of this flying sword, Su Li saved at least 10 years of hard work. With a soft drink, a phantom sword light flew out of Su Li's mouth, wandering around him like a real flying sword. This is the importance of worshipping a good master, not only with the Taoism that directly points to immortality, but also with resources that ordinary wandering immortals cannot imagine. Ordinary practitioners often need decades of hard work to obtain the worst quality flying sword, but for immortal Qiao Xian, it is just a material for his disciples to practice. Of course, this is also because Su Li is proud of himself, or rather because he cheats proficiently with the talisman, which allows him to quickly comprehend the beauty of the Gourd sword technique. If it takes 10.5 days or even until the end of this Fu Jiao, he will not be able to refine the metal Yuan Fu sword technique. Although due to the face of Zen Master Zhigong, Qiao Zhenren will still accept him, but from then on, he will only be regarded as an ordinary disciple. Want to use flying sword for cultivation? Let's wash and sleep. Mr. Qiao's family also has no surplus food. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. True Biography of Taibai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 True Biography of Taibai. The hardware essence of a flying sword cannot be exhausted with just a single metal talisman sword technique. The remaining hardware essence is gathered into a colorful golden pill that falls into Su Liden's field, providing him with nourishment for future cultivation. Thank you, Master Qiao, disciple. Su Li received the hardware and elemental talisman swordsmanship, and sincerely bowed to Master Qiao Xian. Qiao Xian nodded and said, "Since you can cultivate the metal Yuan Fu sword qi, as a disciple, I will recognize you. Besides you, I have also received many disciples as my teacher, but only 3 of them can obtain the true transmission. In the future, you will be the 4th true transmission disciple of my teacher." Su Li didn't know the weight of the true transmission of the Taibai sword sect. He was still a bit confused when he heard this, but he didn't know about the nearby Dr. Ma. His envious eyes turned red. Seeing that the 2 of them had established their master-disciple status, Master Zhigong was also extremely pleased. He congratulated the 2 of them first, and then smiled at Su Li. "I originally just wanted you to do some miscellaneous work and share some merits. Since you have cultivated your magic, you can use it greatly. But I don't know if Niu Nose is willing to give up." The last sentence was spoken to Immortal Qiao Xian, but upon hearing it, Immortal Qiao Xian proudly smiled and said, "I am a true disciple of the Taibai sword sect. Which one was not tempered in the midst of blood and fire? Those flowers locked in a greenhouse, no matter how beautiful they look, are still fragile and vulnerable to a single blow." Master Zhigong smiled and nodded before continuing to Su Li. "This old dragon has been entrenched in Mirror Lake for thousands of years, and his subordinates have gathered many water monsters. The old monk has entered the Buddhist sect, and he has his own rules and cannot kill recklessly. Your master also holds his own identity. This was originally a difficult task, but now it can be entrusted to you. Say it." Master Zhigong took out 9 golden and white intersecting sword pills from his sleeve and handed them to Su Lidao. "This is the sword that the old monk carried with him before entering the Buddhist sect, called the Changsheng sword pill. With your current magical power, you cannot refine it. The old monk will help you use the hardware Yuan Fu sword technique to refine one of them, so that you can barely use it." Su Lidao didn't hesitate and took the sword pill, saying, "Although I don't know who that old demon is, nor do I know what kind of grudges you have between you, but you are the closest person to me in this world, old monk. Since he has offended you, he is my life and death enemy." Su Li, 30 years later, "No matter what my cultivation level is, I will definitely hold this sword pill and fight justice with you." Su Li's words were resolute, and the strong aura between his eyebrows and eyes seemed to condense into substance. Perhaps influenced by the previous owner of this talisman, Su Li has been accompanied by a natural evil energy since entering this world. Even if Master Zhigong has been continuously using Buddhism to resolve it for the past 3 years, it is of no use. Master Zhigong's face was moved and his mouth was about to open, as if he was about to say something, while the real person Qiao Xian beside him had already clapped his hands and cheered. "Okay. It's rare for you to have such ambition. 30 years later, our master and disciples will kill the Yen Demon Palace together, letting that old demon know what the end of offending my Taibai sword sect is." Compared to Su Lishang's still childish evil energy, Qiao Xian at this moment was like an unparalleled sword, with the sword energy combined with the killing energy rushing straight to the sky, dispersing the dark clouds that enveloped the Dragon King Temple. The bright moonlight, like mercury, scattered throughout the courtyard. 3 days later. At night, a group of more than 10 spirits quietly landed and prepared to go to the human settlement to cause trouble. As a result, I couldn't reach Li Su, and a golden light with a few silver stars descended from the sky. Ya, Wao, and Golu were a group of spirits. Not to mention their transformation, their horizontal bones had not yet been refined. When they saw Su Li carrying the heavenly star sword light, they were frightened and scattered. This Taoist technique of the Taibai sword sect is truly renowned for its bravery and progress. In just 3 days, Su Li has been able to wield a 100-zhang sword. The speed of forming combat power is almost countless times stronger than any other cult. These monsters may not even be as strong as ordinary people, but they all carry highly toxic substances. Once they enter densely populated areas, they can immediately trigger various large-scale epidemics. Su Li is not soft-hearted, with golden light shining and silver stars scattered. More than 10 monsters were not spared. The sword technique changed, and the sword light promptly turned around to protect his body. Su Li stood ready and stared closely at the flying night fork that emerged from the darkness. The yiksha was dark red all over, with sharp fangs and a pair of flesh wings on its back. When it saw Su Li, it immediately showed a bloodthirsty expression. The old dragon in Mirror Lake seems to have run out of skills and can only use some tricks that are not up to par. Since 3 days ago, when the Zen master Fa Hai from Tianlong Temple arrived, Qiao Xian has been using his sword to block the doors of the 3 dragon kings in the East China Sea. The old monk, on the other hand, used the poison-avoiding golden radiance pill in combination with a Buddhist divine power to refine the long-lasting poisonous miasma at the bottom of Mirror Lake. The Dharma Sea Zen master, on the other hand, covered the dragon palace of the old dragon with a golden bowl magic treasure. With the refining of the millennium poisonous miasma, the originally dark and difficult to see Mirror Lake has now become a golden lake. Seeing that Zen master Zhigong is about to free up his hands, and the waiting reinforcements are not yet arriving, old Qiao is obviously also anxious. We can only send our subordinates to gather these monsters and demons, and they will come ashore to cause trouble, hoping to besiege Wei and save Zhao. Unfortunately, these monsters are useless. Apart from being severely poisoned, they are not even as good as ordinary mortals. Only 3 of them died unjustly during their lifetime, and their grievances persisted. After death, they had the chance to fall to the bottom of the lake, and the flying yiksha, which had been poisoned by the yin qi for thousands of years, was very powerful. Zombies and monsters, not in reincarnation, not in the 5 elements. Although they may not be able to penetrate with weapons and knives, due to their chaotic spiritual intelligence, they are often not suitable for the environment. Although the flying sky yiksha in front of them is more powerful, it has not escaped the barrier. In terms of Daoxing, this nocturnal fork is already equivalent to the generation of Daomen Ninggang, but because it only has innate divine powers, it is not much inferior compared to some scattered immortals. When encountering a true disciple of a major sect, it is only a matter of 1 or 2 swords in the same realm. Su Liluan's cultivation is still 2 great realms behind this flying night fork, but he has the Changsheng sword pill that Master Zhigong has been refining for hundreds of years in his hand. With his own sharpness, he can break through this night fork without penetrating. In this way, the biggest gap between the 2 sides is invisibly smoothed out. Moreover, it is unknown whether this talisman was influenced by the Yame sect, which dominates swordsmanship, and inherited the talisman's talent from Su Li. His talent in swordsmanship is also extremely exaggerated. The sword moves that come with the Gourd sword technique are easy for Su Li to learn and become more refined in a short while. With just a little practical combat, this sword technique gradually increases at a visible speed. Even Qiao Xian was amazed when he saw the real person. After a piercing roar, the yiksha's wings shook behind him, and its entire body turned into a shadow, grabbing Su Li. Faced with the rapid speed of yiksha, even the generation of Changsheng may have to defend with their own vigorous qi first, and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Xu Li, however, was different. Although it was equally difficult to see the path of the night fork, he relied on his inner sense and used the heavenly star sword Maru to move forward. With a mournful roar, a foul odor filled the air. The blood shadows came and went faster, leaving only a pair of withered and ferocious claws in place. "Let's not leave, demon." With a sharp shout, a blue escape light dragged more than 10 feet of tail wings and arrived here in the blink of an eye. A blue emu divine thunder exploded, and the head of the flying night fork was snatched away by Dr. Ma. Su Li was somewhat speechless, took the sword pill and bowed, saying, "The senior arrived in a timely manner." The green light faded away, and Dr. Ma complained with a worried expression on his face. "Master Zhigong and Master Qiao entrusted their Taoist friends to my care. If something happens to their Taoist friends, how can I explain it to them? When encountering this yiksha, be sure to send a signal as soon as possible. This is not the first time Su Li has encountered this flying yiksha. He met a yiksha the night before yesterday and was killed by Su Li's sword after a fierce battle. However, he was also poisoned by the yiksha's corpse and suffered a considerable amount of punishment. Although Su Li had the intention to say that he was only injured because he was not familiar with this yiksha, he was not someone who knew what to do. He would not argue with this senior Ma in person and immediately nodded in agreement. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Buddhism. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Buddhism. Running around all night, fighting fires everywhere, until the sky was about to clear, these water monsters only returned to Mirror Lake. After all, Su Li's foundation was still shallow. After killing him all night, there was already a slight sweat on his forehead. He immediately sat down, practiced martial arts and luck, and restored his mana. After half an hour, the restoration of mana will not only reach its peak, but also bring significant benefits. Although the Gourd sword technique has been refined by divine talismans and is no longer blindly strong, after all, it is derived from the Taibai Taoist method and is a true slaying sword technique. The most suitable method for cultivation is really to practice during the slaying battle. With both cultivation and improvement, Su Li was also in a good mood. He stood up and shook his Taoist robe, dispersing the dew from his body. At this moment, the rising sun shone on the surface of the lake, illuminating countless golden snakes that flickered endlessly. Su Li really wanted to recite a poem to express his feelings. After brewing for a while, he found that although he remembered 800 Tang poems and thousands of song poems, he himself had no such talent. He had to secretly chat and say. There are also literary magnates in Qisian Shenzhou, who will have a long life after staying here. We will also learn from those senior experts' travels in the mortal world, study these poems and literature, and save time. If we want to pretend in the future, we will have no stock in our hearts. Mirror Lake is several hundred zhang deep, and with Su Li's eyesight, he could only vaguely see a Buddha light shining on the bottom of the lake. A huge golden bowl covered a bustling palace in the water, but the specific situation was unclear. After scanning by the lake for a long time, I still couldn't see where the old monk was. Su Li didn't insist and turned back. Returning to the Dragon King temple, I saw Dr. Ma holding a large cauldron in the temple, boiling soup and medicine. When I saw Su Li, I pointed to the yellow-skinned gourd next to him and said. You have come just in time, Taoist. This is the Jingxi detoxification soup made by me. Please disperse it into nearby water sources to prevent epidemics for the people. Upon hearing that it was a serious matter, Su Li dared not neglect it. After taking the gourd, he left the Dragon King temple without stopping. Mirror Lake is connected to the canal above and the Han River below, making it an extremely crucial waterway. Due to the Fu Jiao incident, the upstream and downstream have been blocked for half a month, and many commercial ships can only wait in place. At the Han River ferry, looking at the densely packed merchant ships parked in the river, a beautiful nun with hair and practice couldn't help but shake her head and sigh. Amitabha Buddha. Next to her, a little girl who was 6 or 7 years old looked at her and heard her master sigh. She looked up with innocent eyes and asked. Master, are you hungry? How about Shuer go to beg for alms? The childish and innocent tone of the little girl diluted the worries in Master Fantua's heart and smiled, saying. Master is not hungry, he just looks at how much food there is, but due to the chaos caused by the dragons, it cannot be transported to the north. He feels sad for the people in his heart. Unlike Dafeng in the south, this year there has been a severe drought in the north, resulting in a severe reduction in grain production. Millions of people in cities such as Halua and Yenyun rely solely on the continuous transportation of grain from the south to stabilize the situation. Now the river is blocked, and every day there is a delay, something unbearable may happen in the north. Master Fantua practices in Mount Wutai. Although it is not the center of disaster, it is not far away, so his anxiety is normal. Unlike the novels that Su Li had read in his past life, Qixuan Shenzhou truly had immortals and Buddhas residing in the world. However, these true immortals and Buddhas did not have the mentality of treating mortals as mere ants. Instead, they often displayed great magical power to protect the common people. Even the most vicious 5 cults of the demon way will not kill mortals for no reason. After all, without this wonderful and diverse secular world, what's the point of longevity? The little girl was pure and heartless, without so much compassion and sentimentality. When she heard that her master was not hungry, she just let out a regretful, "Oh," and shrugged her head. Obviously, the child is hungry. Master Fantua smiled and shook his head, took out a candy block, and put it into the little girl's mouth. "Thank you, master." The little girl's smiling eyes were as cute as a crescent moon. Yuji, Yuyao, pay respects to the master. At this moment, 2 more people arrived. They were 16 or 17 years old and looked exactly the same. They had picturesque eyebrows and eyes, and their skin was like snow, just like people coming out of a painting. Upon seeing the visitor, Master Fantua's face lit up with joy and he asked, "When can Lord Song of the Old Hall arrive?" Upon hearing Fantuo's inquiry, Song Yuji, the sister of the twins, clasped her fists and answered. "It's easy for the master to know that Grandpa found a 10,000-year-old cloud beast in the 9 heavenly gang layer, and now he can't get away from it. But the Tai Qingling boat borrowed by the master has been brought by my sisters. My grandpa ordered me to obey the master's arrangement. This Song family is a famous figure among the scattered immortals. The head of this Song family, Song Laoji, is also a well-known senior scattered immortal in the world. He has the ability to refine weapons, and even the red-haired ancestor, known for his many treasures, has personally praised him. And this Tai Qingling boat was forged by imitating the warships of the ancient Holy Emperor in the Song dynasty's campaign against foreign territories. Although its power is far inferior, it is suitable for use today." When Fantua heard Song Yuji say the first half of the sentence, his heart was still pounding. After listening, he let out a long sigh of relief and nodded, saying, "With the presence of Tai Qingling boat, the people of the north can be considered saved. Master's mercy, we admire it." The second daughter bowed and Song Yuji handed over the Tai Qingling boat with both hands. I saw that the Tai Qingling boat was only 7 inches long, but it was full of green light. Under the boat, there was a mass of Qingling qi supporting it, and it was immediately known that it was an extraordinary treasure of the immortal family. Master Fantua received the Tai Qingling boat, and it was only then that he remembered to invite the young disciple with curious eyes to pay his respects to the second daughter of the Song family. After both sides exchanged greetings, Master Fantua no longer delayed and led everyone to find the transport commissioner in charge of the canal. After explaining his intentions, this court official was also very happy. These days, the canal has been blocked, and he has also been worried about it. However, compared to the floods caused by dragons walking, which caused the entire southern region to deteriorate, we can only choose the lighter of the 2 harms and let the people of the north persist. After all, if even the southern granary is destroyed, then the Tang dynasty is truly finished. Now I have heard that Master Fantua has the divine ability to transport thousands of grains to the capital. Ambassador Li almost entered the Buddhist sect on the spot, and from then on, he will only worship the Buddha. After a while of coordination, Master Fantua handed over the greedy little apprentice to the second daughter of the Song family to take care of, while he went to the ferry to release the Tai Qingling boat. With the help of Fantua's magical power, the originally 7-inch boat had grown to the size of 1,000 zhang in the blink of an eye. Master Fantua jumped onto the spiritual boat, shook the monk's robe, and 100 zhang Buddhist light swept towards the ship filled with grain below. Bags of grain were then captured and carried onto the spiritual boat. The Buddha's light kept flashing, and when the people and merchants below saw this miracle, they all continued to worship and chant Bodhisattva. Although the true immortals and Buddhas often demonstrate their great power to protect the world, the word often is said to be in the entire history. In the short decades of life of ordinary people, it is still extremely rare. However, after a while, the grains of hundreds of large ships were carried onto the spiritual boat by Fantuo. After reciting the Buddhist name, the beautiful nun urged the spiritual boat to transform into a green spiritual escape light and head north. And those people who witnessed the manifestation of their divine powers with their own eyes have become the most devout followers of Buddhism at this moment. On the top, there are two divine monks, Zhigong and Fahai, who are Fu Jiao. On the bottom, there are Fantua who reveal the Buddha's teachings, helping the people solve the court's troubles. Whether or not they are truly compassionate, this time, the Buddha has truly shown a big face. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 9 Heavens Which. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 9 Heavens Which. The speed of the Tai Chingling boat is extremely fast, and it can travel back and forth in just over an hour. With over 1,000 ships of food, if you are busy, you can still transport it in a day. Fantua is fighting for fate and food, but here, the second daughter of the Song family and the little girl named Shuejun are playing happily in the city. Originally, the river was blocked and goods could not be transported out, causing a lot of worry everywhere. Now, Fantua uses his magic to transport grain on the Tai Chingling boat, and Li Yunshi directly buys all the grain here. In this way, the court not only solves the urgent need, but also saves a lot of shipping costs. And many grain merchants have also withdrawn funds, reducing risks, and other people who rely on the canal to live have also settled their wages. After relieving my worries and having money in hand, today's Hanjiang County appears particularly lively. Walking in the market, 3 people each hold 2 strings of tomatoes on sticks. Look here and there. Everything is fresh, but the smallest Shuejun knows the most, and introduces them to the 2 seemingly ignorant sisters. The 3 of them walked, stopped, and changed their small and medium-sized snacks. Song Yuyao stuffed several pieces of ding ding tang into her mouth and pouted, saying, "No wonder the brothers don't want to go back when they come to Datong. It turns out that Datong is so prosperous. Don't be fooled by the fact that the second daughter is a noble daughter of the immortal family. In fact, daily life is very boring. A family of dozens of people live on a spiritual island overseas. Although they don't have to worry about food and drink, they are also served, but what they see every day is the same. It's okay not to have been to this bustling world before. I just thought that everyone in the world lived like this, but once I see this bustling world, thousands of people face each other, I will feel that my previous life was very uncomfortable. Now the second daughter feels this way." Song Yuji nodded and was about to speak when suddenly her shoulder hurt and she couldn't help but frown. "Hey! You are so rude. Haven't you seen anyone bump into you?" Sister Song Yuji is quite calm, but her sister Yu Yao is extremely outgoing. Seeing her face being hit by someone, she immediately yelled at her. The Song family of Shengue Island Tiangong Hall. The woman in black, who had originally passed by, scolded and immediately turned around, looking at the second daughter with a smile on her face. The twin sisters of the Song family is already the best in the world in terms of appearance. But when the woman turned around and showed her face under the bamboo hat, she stole both of them. In terms of appearance, the two are actually only between Guizhong, but this woman's temperament is too unique. There is a sense of evil charm in her dignity, but there is also a sense of morality in her evil charm, making it difficult for people to take their eyes away at first sight. Shu Yuji's eyes are clumsy, I don't know which friend is in front of him. Song Yuji was called to reveal his origin, and his heart tightened. He quickly protected his sister and little girl behind him. This sister is so dangerous, let's go quickly. Before the woman in black could answer, Xiaoxue had already nervously shrunk her head and tugged at Song Yuji's sleeve. Originally, it was okay for Xiao Xuejin to not speak, but now when she spoke, she caught the attention of the woman in black. The red light in her eyebrows flashed, and a sudden expression appeared on her face. It turns out to be a spiritual body, no wonder, the woman muttered to herself before looking back at the second daughter of the Song family with a smile. Friend. It's worth it. I, Su Ziying, have met old Ghost Song a few times. After reporting her background, Su Ziying ignored the second daughter and instead looked at Xiao Xuejuan, who was trembling behind Song Yuji. 9 heavens, witched Su Ziying. Song Yuji's face turned pale and she exclaimed in surprise. Song Yuyao was also startled and stumbled a step. It's not surprising that Nu is like this. It's true that this 9 heavenly witch's reputation has been too great over the past century, and she has become a young generation in the demon realm, deserving of the title of leader. Even the older generation rarely dares to block its edge. Even their grandfather, Song Laoji, was here, and when she called out, Song Lao Gui, they had to bow their heads and laugh, afraid to explode their feathers. In addition to its strong cultivation, its background is also an important factor. This Su Ziying is none other than the daughter of Zen Master Zhigong, the true disciple of the Taibai sword sect in the past, and now the saint of the Yanma Palace. Whoever touches her, whether it's Yan Mo Palace, Taibai sword sect, or even Buddhism, will not let go. Glancing at the pale second daughter of the Song family, Su Ziying chuckled and said. Don't worry, although you have offended me, for the sake of Song Laogui's relatively respectful attitude, I won't kill you. However, the death penalty can avoid the difficulty of life penalty. Say it. I saw Su Ziying bend her fingers and pop out 2 magic lights, hitting the second daughter. She only heard 2 painful groans. The second daughter's face immediately twisted, her lips turned outward, her teeth fell off, her nostrils widened 3 or 4 times, and her beautiful hair began to rub and fall off. In the blink of an eye, the 2 delicate fairies became 2 unattractive leprosy aunties. 9 heavens, witch, it's true that only the wrong name is called, not the wrong name. Okay, that's what makes it more pleasing to the eye. Su Ziying clapped her hands and cheered, with a smile on her face. Where did this ugly woman come from? Hurry up and be careful of the epidemic. Su Ziying's 2 magical lights not only made the second daughter of the Song family look ugly, but also broke their personal illusions, allowing nearby people to see their true faces. Listening to the sound of disgust in her ears, the second daughter panicked and screamed as she pushed through the crowd, escaping into a nearby alley. Su Ziying didn't care about the 2 of them, just smiled and hooked her finger at Xiao Xuejun. Come here. Xiao Xuejun's tears had already gathered in her eyes, and she wanted to run, but the premonition brought by her spiritual body constantly reminded her not to run. Be a good master, Su Ziying looked at Xiao Xuejun, who was walking step by step. With rare patience, she waited for her to come and knead her sheep horn braid. Upon hearing this mischievous older sister call herself master, Xiao Xuejun couldn't help but cry. Good-looking sister, Shuer has a master. Su Ziying just tilted her eyes, and Xiao Xuejun immediately trembled with fear, crying and shouting, Master. Upon hearing Xiao Xuejun yield, the 9 heavens which immediately smiled and took her hand, saying, You are becoming a disciple for the second time, but I am becoming a master for the first time. If you offend me in the future, you should bear it more. If it makes me angry, being a master will not let you, after all, I have a bad temper. Upon hearing the strange words of this new master, Xiao Xuejun forgot to even cry. She looked up with tears on her face, staring blankly at her. Xiao Xuejun looked extremely cute. Su Ziying smiled and pinched her rosy little face, talking about her various strange rules as she walked. Su Ziying was very attentive to this newly recruited disciple and helped her by a small bamboo basket filled with various candies and snacks. Only then did she release her flying sword, which turned into a 6 or 7 zhang escape light, and led Xiao Xuejun towards the direction of Mirror Lake. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. True biographies do not need 10,000 words. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. True biographies do not need 10,000 words. There were many people near Jinghu, and Su Li was busy all day, but he could only complete half of the task. As the sky turned dark, Su Li thought about patrolling Mirror Lake at night. He collected yellow skin gourds and took out the steamed buns given by the villagers, eating them while rushing back. As soon as he returned to the Dragon King Temple, Su Li saw that there were already 7 or 8 small dishes in the courtyard. A woman in black turned her back to him, and a girl next to her recited Amitabha Buddha and took a small sip of fruit wine. The sour and sweet taste made the child's eyes squint with beauty. And Dr. Ma was carefully waiting on the side. "Senior, who are these two?" Seeing Su Li, Dr. Ma did not respond, but quickly signaled to him to leave quickly. "You don't have to do these little gestures in front of me. Do you think I don't know who he is?" After saying this, the woman turned around and held a wine glass, looking at Su Li with a smile on her face. "Su Li, you have indeed become a disciple of the Taibai sword sect, and he really values you. He even gave you the Changsheng sword marble." Originally, Su Li didn't know who the person was coming from, but when she finished speaking, Su Li immediately knew that this was the daughter of the old monk. This was an inexplicable emotional response, unable to explain the reason clearly. "I'm Su Li, but I don't know if I should call you Senior Sister Su or the 9 Heavens Witch." The two of them had a cultivation level of 1 heaven and 1 earth. In theory, at this time, Su Li should avoid his sharpness as the best strategy. With his qualifications and divine talismans, he will eventually catch up with this 9 Heavens Witch. But some accounts are not calculated in this way. If he chooses to compromise today, his ambition will inevitably be undermined by this 9 Heavens Witch. If he were to seek justice with the old monk 30 years later, it would be a real joke. Looking at Su Li, who was facing each other head-on, Dr. Ma felt extremely anxious and hurriedly said, "The saint, calm down. Su Daoyu doesn't know your reputation, that's why." The saint. Su Ziying paid no attention to Dr. Ma. In the eyes of ordinary people, Dr. Ma is indeed an alchemist who deserves attention. But in her eyes, not to mention a Dr. Ma, what is the whole Medicine King Valley worth? Drink the fruit wine from the cup in one gulp, reach out and point, a blazing sword light cuts towards Su Li. "I want to see who gave you the courage to question me." Su Ziying is not only a saint of the Yen Demon Palace, but also a true legend of the Taibai sword sect. Her cultivation of the fire dragon sword technique is extremely domineering. Now, with dual cultivation of Dao and Mo, her swordsmanship combines with the strengths of the two families. It is not an exaggeration to say that the leaders' group discussion is also true. With just a casual sword aura, many so-called sword immortals can hide their faces and leave. "Good day," Su Li drank softly, his eyebrows and eyes drooping, and a golden light dragged around him with silver stars. The difference in cultivation between the two is too great, even though Su Li used the top-notch flying sword Tianqing sword Maru, while Su Ziying only casually struck. At the moment of contact, Jin Guang was immediately engulfed by flames, and Su Li became a big fireball. "Saint, please be merciful." The nearby Dr. Ma jumped anxiously, but dared not take action. From his perspective, it was natural to see that Su Ziying had no intention of killing. If she intervened recklessly, with the temper of this 9 Heavens Witch, she would actually suffer. However, Su Ziying ignored it, and after emitting a sword aura, she sat down on her own and stuffed a soft and rotten lamb stewed with chopsticks into Xiao Xuejuan's mouth. When growing up, it's not enough to just eat vegetables. You should eat more meat. Xiao Xuejian blinked his eyes, intending to abide by the precepts spoken by Master Fentua, but this new master is so fierce, and the lamb is also delicious. "Thank you, Master." Well behaved." The heavenly star sword circle shrank smaller and smaller, and gradually could only withstand it from 3 feet outside the body. However, as time passed, under this high pressure, Su Li's swordsmanship became increasingly pure, and he slowly managed to maintain the situation. Su Ziying not only has an extremely high cultivation level, but her swordsmanship is also top-notch in the world. At this time, Su Li was like being personally trained by a swordsmanship master. Many of the swordsmanship mysteries that should not have been within his realm were gradually revealed. The more he fought, the more excited Su Li's heart became. His sword moves became more and more exquisite, and his swordsmanship became more and more refined. But at this moment, Su Li himself had a big problem. The mysterious jade talisman, which seems to be the Tai-Ching-1-Chi divine talisman, has remained motionless since it was refined and supplemented with the Gourd sword technique. No matter how much Su Li stimulated his research, there was no gain. Just as Su Li was becoming more adept at dealing with the fire dragon sword Qi, the mysterious jade talisman suddenly spewed out a lantern flower. This lantern flower is only the size of a diced bean, but it is full of purple energy and full of the meaning of refining magic. As soon as he appeared, he fell into Su Liden's field, burning his metal elemental talisman sword energy to a boil. Su Li's heart was greatly shocked, and he could only desperately activate the sword technique to block the fire dragon sword energy from the outside, and burst open the colorful golden pill transformed from the essence of hardware inside, desperately merging the metal elemental talisman sword energy. With such internal and external demons, Su Li was like a small boat in the sea, swaying in wind and rain, and could only squeeze out all his potential. 1, 2, 3 Su Li's mind gradually emptied of distractions. Unconsciously, all the essence of hardware was transformed into metal elemental talismans and sword energy, and 12 of the 30.6 illusory talismans were transformed into substance. Su Li's magical power has increased by more than 10 times, and after being calcined by the purple lantern flower, he has also become more than several times more refined. Although his Tao practice is still innate in cultivating Qi, it is no longer comparable to before. The gourd emits a purple aura, and the fire cultivates golden lotus. Thank you very much, Senior Sister Su, for completing it. With a loud shout, amidst the red waves of fire, a little purple light enveloped the golden and silver stars shone through. In the blink of an eye, it swept away the red flames. The Tianqing sword pill in his hand was spinning and spinning, and Su Li strode forward and sat across from Su Ziying. He took the wine jug and poured it himself, raising his glass to signal. Please. Su Ziying's eyes were a little surprised. Seeing Su Li like this, she turned to a smile and raised her glass, touching it and saying, I also have this qualification. Su Li didn't know if her so-called qualifications were to be her junior brother or to question her qualifications, but Su Li didn't care. After this process of practicing both Tao and Mo, he had truly transformed and shed his mortal heart. Even without the mysterious jade talisman in the future, relying solely on the Hulu sword technique, he still has the confidence to prove immortality and sweep away all enemies. After drinking it all in one gulp, Su Li put down his glass and asked. Senior sister, why are you here? Upon hearing Su Li's inquiry, it was unclear whether his previous performance had completely won the recognition of this Nine Heavens witch. After patting the admiring little Snow Lord, he said seriously. The old man from the Yen Demon Emperor said, I have a fate in the future, and I will come and kill you. Su Fifa didn't show any unusual colors, but calmly filled her glass and smiled, saying. But senior sister has no intention of killing. After seeing if Su Li was frightened, Su Ziying said, bored, before showing a proud expression and saying. They always like to figure things out, thinking about how to avoid misfortune. It's really lifeless, I don't like it. As cultivators, we should face difficulties and just avoid them. Even if we get immortality, it's difficult to hold on to it. Anyway, if you really block my path in the future, then you'll have to break down into countless pieces and refine your soul. His mouth spoke harshly, and his face also had an abnormal evil charm. Su Li nodded with a smile and said, well said, then raised his glass again and said. My fate is determined by me, not by heaven. The true legend doesn't require 1,000 words. Thank you for your guidance, senior sister. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Taking Being a Gambler. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Taking Being a Gambler, is this Xiqing Do leading the fire? The purple lantern flower has returned to the Naiwan palace, swaying incessantly above Su Li's divine soul, with strands of purple air hanging down from it, making his divine soul seem to be covered in a layer of purple gauze. This lantern illuminates both inside and outside, full of the intention of refining demons. Su Li was able to break through Su Ziying's fire dragon sword Qi, relying on his own rapid progress in magic and swordsmanship, and also having the effect of this object. The fire dragon sword technique was originally the most powerful and domineering method of the supreme Yang Dao. After learning the Dao technique of the Yen Mo palace, Su Ziying comprehended the principle of anode generating yin from the supreme Yang. From then on, the double refining of Dao and Mo mixed the 6 yin demons that could be unconsciously attacked in the fire dragon sword technique of supreme Yang. Many older generation figures, even the immortals who have cultivated the primordial spirit, are taken advantage of by them because they do not know the secrets behind it. Those who have cultivated the primordial spirit are fortunate, at most suffering a small loss and losing face. Those who have not achieved the primordial spirit will end up in a miserable situation. The title of the 9 heavens which was also derived from it. But Su Li, with this lantern flower as his protector, had no choice but to turn into a demon and turn into ashes upon being illuminated by it. In the legend of Shu Mountain, there was a fairy who went through tribulations in the lower realm. He brought 9 lantern flowers from the Taoist's palace as a treasure for refining demons and protecting himself. After the fairy's calamity was completed, he flew up again and left these 9 lantern flowers in the lower realm. Among them, 3 were obtained by the 3rd generation leader of the Ma sect, Li Yingqiong. The last 3 were combined and refined into the purple-green dough leading fire, which is one of Li Yingqiong's most trusted treasures for refining demons. Is this Li Yingqiong's one? Thinking of this, Su Li couldn't help but feel a headache. This Tai Chin 1 Qi divine talisman was like an old master, only occupying his mud ball palace. Only when there was an abnormality in the divine soul would corresponding measures be taken. The previous time, Master Qiao passed on the Hulu sword technique to him. Originally, he had used techniques on top of it, and only when he reached his cultivation level could he know the next level of the sword technique. However, this talisman didn't care much about it, and he just swallowed it up. Not only did it refine and supplement the Hulu sword technique, but it also broke through Qiao Xian's techniques, making Su Li clear about the sword technique. In other words, Qiao Xian had originally ensured his own Jinpai sword technique. Unless Su Lidoxing could far surpass him in the future or obtain his approval to revoke the means, even his closest person would not be able to teach this Gourd sword technique. But now this insurance is completely gone. And this time, the same thing happened. As the dark demon infiltrated, the talisman threw out the powerful weapon, purple-green dough leading fire, leaving all the demons nowhere to hide. At the same time, it helped complete a Dao Mo double refinement and shed their mortal hearts. But such an uncontrollable situation also gave him a great headache. If it weren't for his resilience and compassion, it wouldn't have been those demons who were refined into ashes this time, but himself. It's okay. With my current cultivation level, not to mention the Tai Chin 1 Qi divine talisman, I can't control even the purple-green dough leading fire. That's a big difference. Now that I'm working hard to cultivate, it's the most important thing. It's useless to think so much. Empty your mind of distractions. Su Li sits cross-legged, practicing martial arts and qi. As the 2 divine monks Jigong and Fahai gained deeper control over Mirror Lake, the old dragon at the bottom of the lake could no longer control the monsters under his command, so the night was quite quiet. After a sleepless night, the next day, Dr. Ma prepared breakfast early. Not to mention, he is worthy of being a master of alchemy. Even this cooking skill is excellent. A few simple dishes and congee cooked with some miraculous medicine are very refreshing. Grandpa Ma's congee is really delicious. The little girl was about to say that she cooked better than her master, when she said the word master, and saw Su Ziying, the new master, looking at her. She was so frightened that the little girl quickly lowered her head and dared not say anything more. Senior sister, it may not be easy to destroy the merits of the old monk. Although you have a vast understanding of both Tao and Mo, you have not yet cultivated the fate demon or Taoist primordial spirit. You can still deal with ordinary scattered immortals, but you still need to deal with the old monk and Fa High Zen master. Be careful not to steal chickens, and instead, you were taken by Fa High Zen master to Tianlong Temple to become a nun. That's it. After a brief encounter, Su Li also gained some understanding of this Nine Heavens witch. She is extremely ambitious and has a strange temper. The more you appear weak and afraid of her, the more she will bully you, and even bully you to death. On the contrary, if you gain her approval and behave fearlessly, she will not argue with you in the details. As Su Li spoke at this moment, she also showed a look of regret that you were so beautiful as a nun. She didn't mind but explained to Su Li. What do you know? With his path, he could have achieved the position of Bodhisattva long ago. Will he lack this merit? He wants to use this merit to transform me with the great Buddhist teachings. It's ridiculous. Whether it's him or the Taibai sword sect, they all think I've been changed by the old man Yen Mo, the heavenly son. But if I were to be transformed by him, wouldn't it be like I went from one extreme to another, and that's not me. At this point, she sneered and continued. I have overcome the tribulation and cultivated the Urki fire dragon immortal Qi and the demon light of slaying ghosts and dementoring souls. With just one chance, I can refine the primordial spirit and transform into the primordial spirit and demon. However, whether it is to achieve the primordial spirit or transform into the primordial spirit and demon, I need to find the support of immortality. Can a person who has been changed from their identity find the support of immortality? Although it seemed like she was asking Su Li, she was actually asking herself, and when she asked herself, she replied. Do you know why I didn't kill you? Not liking being arranged by these old guys is just secondary, but the most important thing is that if I can't find my true self, I will always be controlled by him. My divine soul will be refined into a divine demon, and I will never be able to be reborn in life. This is my biggest fate. But if I could find my true self and refine the primordial spirit, his magic would be broken by me, and his Taoist conduct would ultimately make me a wedding dress, but unfortunately he couldn't kill me yet. Do you think this old man is afraid of me now? Speaking of this, Su Ziying laughed heartily, tears streaming down her face as she laughed. Su Li was dumbfounded, for a moment, not knowing how to express himself. The morale of this Nine Heavens witch was 100 times, 1,000 times higher than he had imagined, but the difficulties she encountered were also thousands of times more difficult than he knew. She knew everything and knew everything. Despite being in such a difficult situation, she used her own efforts to raise funds and sat at the gambling table with the giant demon Yen Mo Tianzi, who almost wiped out the Taibai sword sect. If she won, she would take everything. If she lost, she would be doomed. Even if Buddha came, she would not be able to save her. So bold and scheming, even though she is a woman, she is more powerful than any man. Little brother, the frog at the bottom of the well, I don't know what to say. I just wish senior sister to fulfill her wish, get out of the predicament as soon as possible, and prove that pure yang will last for a long time. Su stood up and bowed, although he also called senior sister a few times, this time it was different from before. Su Ziying straightened her waist, touched the tearful smile at the corner of her eyes, nodded slightly imperceptibly, looked southeast, and smiled. Ha, here comes the one who is competing with my disciple. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Struggle Between Purple and Blue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The struggle between purple and blue, fairy, return me as a disciple. Sending a grain, but the transfer disciple was robbed. Not to mention, the two girls who came to help her, originally with a fairy-like appearance, turned into two leprous aunties in the blink of an eye. Buddha has a compassionate heart, but he also has the anger of Vajra. Accompanied by the thunderous roar of Hongzhong, came the famous demon-slaying deity of Buddhism, the Silent Thunder. This divine power specializes in defeating various demons. Its thunderous sound is silent and does not cause any harm to ordinary people. However, it is a natural nemesis for various invisible and formless demons and demons. I heard that this divine power was created by a great demon lord who converted to Buddhism. I don't know if this Fantua master was blinded by the anger, and the divine thunder exploded directly in the courtyard. Although this silent divine thunder is harmless to ordinary people, for practitioners, besides some abnormalities, its power is not weaker than ordinary thunder techniques. Su Li's reaction was extremely fast. He pulled up the little girl next to him, and Tianqing's sword Maru transformed into a golden cloud wrapping the two of them, rushing out of the Dragon King temple. Old beggar, even after entering Buddhism, she is still so ruthless and ruthless. Su Ziying chuckled lightly and two fiery dragons soared into the sky. One is pure gold, one is dark red, one is left and the other is right, intersecting with each other, shaped like scissors. The red golden fire dragon reaches the yang, while the dark red fire dragon is pure yin. With one heat and one cold, there is also the extremely sharp sword energy accompanying it. With just one cut, it will crush the Buddha's light in the sky. Do you really think no one can cure you, witch? Is there anyone who can cure me? I don't know, but you old beggar, who hasn't seen me for years, has actually become much younger. Isn't it because you have practiced the joyful Zen and absorbed yang to nourish yin? Fairy, I heard that Master Zhigong has put in a lot of effort to arrange a marriage for you. Please be patient and don't show your lewd appearance to scare them away. The two of them engaged in both verbal and martial arts battles, with the fire dragon and Buddha light intertwined. For a moment, the east wind overpowered the west wind, and for a moment, the west wind overpowered the east wind. However, none of them could defeat each other, and the battle was difficult to distinguish. These two individuals were originally figures of the same era, both of whom came from the same Taoist school and were once listed as the twin pearls of the Taoist sect by the world. But later on, one returned to Buddhism and the other went to the devil's way. What remains unchanged is that both of them have always looked down upon each other. Nowadays, when enemies meet, they are even more envious. Not to mention, Su Ziying's attempt to forcibly capture Xiaoxue Jun may also be due to the influence of Master Fantua. Is second master about to get married? Who is Shigong? If only you were a little older, brother Su. The two of them exchanged insults and sarcastic voices, and even though they were far apart, Xiaoxue Jun could hear them vividly. Su Li didn't want to pay attention, after all, although Su Ziying and Fantua had not yet achieved immortality, they were already one of the most powerful characters under immortality. The brilliance of their fighting skills was of great benefit to Su Li. But this little girl, despite being so timid in front of Su Ziying's eyes, was extremely bold and mischievous once she left the Nine Heavens Witch. Of course, it could also be her telepathic body, which was too sensitive, knowing that Su Li would not harm her. After finishing a sentence, he shook his head and said seriously. Not good, not good. If Brother Su gets married to Second Master, what will Big Master do? Don't let Brother wait for you to grow up, even marry Big Master. Master is also very beautiful. As the bear child spoke more and more excessively, Su Li sneered and interrupted. Xiaoxue, do you know that children who talk recklessly can also easily get beaten up? Ah! Fantua and Su Ziying fought back and forth no less than 100 times. When they were both in the Taoist school, Su Ziying was a high-ranking member of the Taibai sword sect, while Fantua was only a secondary immortal from a small sect. Fen Tuo was often bullied by Su Ziying. After both of them defected from the Taoist school, Su Ziying had not yet fully mastered the magic of the sect, and the situation turned upside down, causing Fen Tuo to be quite angry. Now that the two have not seen each other for almost 7 or 8 years, Su Ziying has merged her entire body of magic and Taibai Dao methods into one, cultivating the 27 fire dragon immortal Qi and the demon light of slaying ghosts and dementoring souls. She is no longer afraid of the Fen Tuo Buddha Dharma. The two fought from morning until evening, and Su Ziying gradually gained the upper hand. The sky was filled with Buddha's light mixed with a hint of black air, and the Buddha's light was no longer pure. Fen Tuo also retreated step by step when facing Su Ziying. Lu Qingyi, you will never surpass me, even if you learn Buddhism. Lu Qingyi is naturally the common name of Master Fen Tuo. I don't know if she was secretly manipulated by Su Ziying's magic, or if the three characters, Lu Qingyi, stirred up a loophole in Fen Tuo Buddha's heart. This nun was furious, and various Buddhist supernatural powers became increasingly powerful. However, in contrast, the black energy in the Buddha's light also increased, until in the sky of Buddha's light, a witch with a face similar to Fen Tuo and no strands on her body emerged. Amitabha Buddha. Just as the light of Fen Tuo Buddha dissipated and the whole person was embraced by the witch, a Buddhist horn sounded, and the blinding Buddha light rolled the black smoke illuminated by the witch. A golden statue of the Meng king, standing thousands of zhang tall and surrounded by 28 arms on all sides, slowly rose from the lake. Su Ziying's face changed and she let out a cold snort. Fire Dragon Duanguang came towards Su Li and Xiao Xuejuan. Unfortunately, her escape light was already extremely fast, but it was not as fast as Zhigong's golden body. Her golden fingers were like mountains, slowly pressing down, and her golden body seemed to be slow, solid, and fast. In the blink of an eye, it blocked before the escape light. I want to take my disciple away, do you also want to block me? Zen Master Zhigong did not respond, but recited the Buddhist name again. No matter how Su Ziying's escape light changed, he could not approach Su Li and the two of them. Su Ziying's divine power is already immense, even when facing ordinary elemental gods and real people, she can compete with each other. However, when facing Zen Master Zhigong, she has no choice. The difference between the two is even greater than the difference between ordinary people and elemental gods. It is such a powerful Zen master, but he is still being calculated by the Yen Demon Emperor. From here, one can also glimpse the difficulties faced by this 9 heavenly witch when facing the Yen Demon Emperor. After trying several times, but all to no avail, Su Ziying no longer forced herself to show her figure. She stroked her hair and said to Xiao "Good disciple, Master has no way to deal with this old monk at the moment. Don't worry, when Master also cultivates into the primordial spirit, he will come to pick you up and take you home." After speaking to Xiao, he didn't forget to say to Su Li. "The green mountains remain unchanged, the green water flows long, junior brother. Goodbye by fate." Su Li clasped his fists and saluted, "Senior sister, take your time." Su Ziying nodded and glanced at the golden body of the Ming king. She lit up a hidden light, which turned into a brilliant flame, rising towards the sky and disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. "Amitabha Buddha, I made you laugh." The voice of the old monk came to Su Li's ear, and he smiled and said, "What are you laughing at? I actually think senior sister's demeanor is extraordinary and admirable." The old monk remained silent, and after a while, his golden body sank back to the bottom of the lake. It was only in Su Li's ear that he heard his voice again. "Destiny is also fate, perhaps she is right. The old monk and senior brother Fa Hai can't hold their hands for the time being. Go find a large jar and put the Fen Tuo and the true talisman left by the old monk in the temple together in the jar, bury them in yellow soil, and then place them in the basement of the Dragon King Temple." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Qiao Shi Xing Meng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Qiao Shi Meng, Master, why don't you want to die? Fen Tuo was provoked by Su Ziying's angry thoughts, which triggered a plot by the inner demons. Although he escaped the fate of Imo Ran due to the intervention of Zen Master Zhigong, the inner demons were born on his own, and Zen Master Zhigong had the means to subdue them. However, once an outsider subdues the demons, Fen Tuo's path will be over. Fen Tuo's inner demon was scorching, and he could only suppress it with the Prajnaparamita meditation method. At this point, his physical body had completely stiffened. When he heard the cry of the little disciple, Fen Tuo spoke with his heart as his voice. Don't worry, Xiaoxue. Master is fine, he just needs to meditate and practice. He can't accompany you for now. Master, as long as you're okay, I won't be greedy anymore and won't make you angry anymore. The little girl tugged at the Fen Tuo monk's robe, tears streaming down her face. Alright, how can Master practice with peace of mind like this? Su Li patted the little girl and then arched his hand at the sitting Fen Tuo, asking. Has the Master started? Thank you very much, Benefactor Su. I apologize for any inconvenience caused. Please do something, Benefactor. But Xiaoxue? Su Li asked directly as Fen Tuo finished speaking. The benefactor is intelligent, no wonder he is valued by Master Zhigong. I came from a side sect and was always brave and fierce before joining the Buddhist sect. Later, I was inspired by Master Jinchan and joined Master Zhigong to join the Buddhist sect. Although I didn't say anything about it, I often felt proud of it. At this moment, I realized that I still have a side sect mentality. Today, suffering from this calamity is like hitting the head with a baton. It makes me realize that I should have let go of everything and meditated peacefully at this moment. However, Shuer has a special physique and is young, so I really can't rest assured. Su Li nodded to show understanding, but at this point, he had become a disciple of the Taibai sect under the guidance of Immortal Qiao. After the end of Fu Jiao, he was likely to return to the Taibai sword sect with Immortal Qiao as his ancestor, so he could only politely refuse. Master Rong, I cannot act independently when I stop. I still have to wait for Master Qiao's instructions. Please, Master. Before Su Li could finish speaking, a kind and loud voice rang out in the basement. Speaking of this matter, it's still up to the old monk. You can go on a trip on behalf of the old monk. As for Qiao, he killed Xingqi and beheaded the true body of the Dragon Sea Dragon Lord. At this time, he is being chased by the 7 Dragon Kings, so I don't care about you for the time being. You should go back to Mount Taibai. Ah! Is Master Qiao so fierce? Su Li was stunned and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The entire Qixien divine land was only 13 Dragon Kings. Although their cultivation levels varied, even the worst Dragon King had a cultivation level equivalent to that of a Taoist Yuan Shenzhen. Qiao was originally entrusted by the old monk to go to the mouth of the East China Sea to drag down the 3 Dragon Kings in the East China Sea, but he didn't expect him to not only drag down the 3 Dragon Kings in a 1.1 battle, but also behead the true body of the East Sea Dragon King. This person from the White Sword sect is really quite demonic. Is Teacher Qiao okay? The real person Luo Yuan has already gone. Although these old dragons are angry, they dare not really offend the Taibai sword sect. You can rest assured. At the peak of the Taibai sword sect, there were 11 primordial gods and immortals. Later, when the demons attacked Taibai Mountain, 3 immortals turned and fled. 1 immortals went outside the region to open up another mansion for the Taibai sword sect, and Master Zhigong entered Buddhism. In the past century, there has only been 1 newly emerged primordial god, while the Dragon Clan has 13 Dragon Kings, one of whom is an old antique that has lived from ancient times to the present. In theory, one should not have been afraid of the White Sword sect. It cannot be ignored that the current leader of the Taibai sword sect is the newly appointed Yuanshan Zhenren and Zongshengxiu Zhenren after the Taibai rebellion. This Zhongzhenren is the first person of the Taibai sword sect to cultivate all the Taibai Taoist techniques since its establishment. While practicing the Qi level, he has created 4 unparalleled talents of the Taibai Taoist techniques, namely dragon slaying, xian slaying, phoenix slaying, and tiger slaying, no less than the Hulu sword technique. After achieving the ultimate goal, he became even more unstoppable. With a single sword, he swept away all the demons that were rampant at that time, and defeated all the 5 demonic sects, only temporarily avoiding their sharpness. Over the years, this Zhong Zhangjiao only practiced swordsmanship in Taibai Mountain and neglected foreign affairs. Before Jiazi, do you see how these old dragons have the courage to bully the few with more and pursue the Yuanshan immortal of the Taibai sword sect? I'm afraid even if he was beheaded by Qiao Xian, Dong Hai Dragon Lord would have to carry his own dragon liver, paired with good wine, and personally send it to Taibai Mountain, accompanied by a smiling face and asking questions. Zhong Zhangjiao's aura would dissipate. Su Lizai had only been in the cultivation world for a few days, and his master Qiao Xian was not by his side. Although Dr. Ma had told him some things about the Taibai sword sect, there were many taboos and he dared not say more. Su Li naturally did not understand it deeply. However, since the old monk said it was okay, most likely it was really okay. Putting aside the newly rising worries in his heart, Su Li nodded and said, "Your matter is naturally mine. Don't worry, I will handle it properly." The old monk chuckled, although he could only hear his voice without seeing him, he was also very happy to hear this divine monk. Su Li regards him as a family member, and he is always like this to Su Li. When interacting with others, we always achieve each other's success and imprint our hearts with each other. This matter is also beneficial to you, but it should not be in the present, but in the future. By the way, the 2 girls of the Song family were planted with a demon seed by Ziying and are now hiding in the Snake Mountain outside of Hanyang City. After you finish this matter, bring them first. Su Li nodded and agreed. Okay, I will take care of these small matters. You should focus more on Mirror Lake. I always feel that there are still twists and turns in the matter of Fu Jiao. Master Zhigong exclaimed in surprise and asked. Did you also cultivate innate divine calculation? How come the old monk doesn't know? Su Li chuckled and said. What kind of innate calculation does this require? It's not something that can be easily guessed. There are indeed twists and turns in the matter of Fu Jiao. Although this old Jiao is wild, it was originally inspired by Pure Yang Immortal. Although Pure Yang Immortal did not formally establish a tradition, his disciple Wang Yang Immortal established the True One sect, which is also one of the 7 major sects of Taoism. Nowadays, when Buddhism takes action, one reason is that Master Zhigong needs merit, and the other reason is that after the establishment of the Tang dynasty, he regarded himself as a descendant of the Taoist ancestors, leading to the flourishing of Taoism and the decline of Buddhism. Even though the Golden Cicada holy monk once traveled the world to propagate Buddhism, although it had brought many talented people to release, it was still difficult to change the overall situation. Nowadays, there are Buddhist experts who interfere with the secular world through the Fu Jiao incident. Naturally, there will also be experts in Taoism who will interfere, but it should not be something that Su Li can know. Zen Master Zhigong is also curious and asks. Oh. How did you guess? Tell the old monk. Regarding the old monk Su Li, he naturally wouldn't hide and deliberately hide his foolishness. He explained at the moment. Old monk, you are a Buddhist sect, while senior sister represents the demonic way. The dragon kings in the East China Sea represent a different kind. Although our Taibai sword sect wears Taoist robes and respects our ancestors, why do they not recognize the other 6 sections? Now, people from all major sects have come to an end, but the Taoist has not yet seen anyone, so I guess this matter is not over yet. Not bad, not bad. Although it's not a hit, it's not far away. This setback has nothing to do with the old monk. They fight against them, and the old monk is his own. Don't hinder anyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Unity of Heaven and Man, Innate Wonderland. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Unity of Heaven and Man, Innate Wonderland. Gazing at the Turtle and Snake Mountains from Hanyang, one can only see the Snake Mountain winding and moving. The Turtle Mountain is calm and heavy, and the two mountains intersect, with an indescribable spiritual mechanism hidden within it. Su Li opened his eyes and looked far away, muttering to himself in his heart. I don't know if there will be someone named Zhang Junbao standing here like me in the future, observing the mountains and creating the true martial arts 7-cut formation. On the bank of the river, after a moment of wild thought, Su Li couldn't help but mock himself. You are also delusional. This is not a world anymore. Although there are two mountains of turtles and snakes, there is no Wudong Mountain. Brother Su, why doesn't Wudong Mountain exist? Because he didn't have it before. Oh. Brother Su, why don't you take one? The little girl was innocent, but the speaker was unintentional and the listener was interested. Suddenly, Su Li's heart shook and he pondered in secret. Yes. Without Wudong Mountain, why can't I establish another Wudong Mountain? Although this child speaks naively and lacks much knowledge, it is because of this that she will not be bound by her so-called acquired knowledge. Although I have benefited from the information explosion on Earth, which has allowed me to broaden my horizons far beyond those in this realm. In terms of knowledge reserves, even some spiritual beings may not be as good as me. This is my advantage, but it is also my biggest disadvantage. When encountering something, it is extremely easy to be preconceived and fall into a barrier of knowledge and vision. Su Li has gained a deeper understanding of cultivation, and his body's hardware, elemental symbols, and sword energy have suddenly undergone some wonderful changes. This change is not due to deeper magic or sharper sword energy, but rather a deeper bond with the surrounding heaven and earth. The heart of a child is innate, so that's why. Su Li let out a long smile and released his sword shot, transforming into a golden glow. As soon as this golden glow appeared, the Han River was calm and the surrounding flowers, plants, and trees spread out in its direction. Birds and beasts ran and chirped in the forest, making it really lively. This is an extremely rare realm in Taoism, called the unity of heaven and man, which is also a true innate realm. After Su Ziying planted two sisters of the Song family, they dared not see anyone again. They ran to the Snake Mountain outside the city. They had hidden themselves and deliberately hid from people. It was difficult for Su Li to find them. At this moment, inspired by a heartless remark from Xiaoxue Jun, I realized the wonderful realm of the unity of heaven and humanity. Everything in nature had some seemingly indistinct connections with him, and with just a thought in my heart, countless messages came continuously. In just a moment, I locked in the location of my second daughter. Su Li, a disciple of the Taibai sect, was entrusted by Master Zhigong to welcome the two fairies. I hope you won't hesitate to meet them. The sisters of the Song family was planted with evil seeds, and her appearance was so destroyed that she could not see anyone. Seeing Su Li's sword light from afar, she hid in the cave. At this time, she heard that Su Li was sent by the famous Zhigong god monk. She immediately cried with joy and felt that she was finally saved. Listening to the crying inside, Su Li didn't urge him either. He just waited quietly. After a while, he saw the two of them covering their faces with black cloth and supporting each other as they walked out. Yuji, Yuyao, I have met Brother Dao. Su Li bowed back and said, Su Li has seen both of you. Su Li originally wanted to call himself a fairy, but seeing the slight expressions on their faces, he still felt it was better not to say anything. He doesn't love beauty and ugliness like ordinary people, he just compares his heart to his heart. After exchanging etiquette, the two women couldn't wait to ask. Where is the divine monk? I will go and pay my respects right away. Su Li understood the urgency of the second daughter and immediately said. The Zen master is at Mirror Lake. I'll take the two of you there. Su Li's words finally fell, and Song Yuji had already released the Tai Qingling boat, transforming it into an 8-story ship about 10 zhang in size. Please forgive me, Brother Dao, for our urgent request to see the divine monk. Song Yuji bowed with a hint of apology. How could Su Li mind these things? He smiled and said. Well, I haven't been practicing for a few days yet, and I haven't really seen such a precious treasure from the immortal family. Now, it's thanks to my sister's blessings. The two women were grateful for the gift, but Su Li smiled and pulled Xiaoxuer to jump onto the spiritual boat. This Tai Qingling boat is indeed a treasure refined by the Song Laoji's imitation of the Holy Emperor's worship. The cultivation of the Song sisters is as different as Su Li's. But now, the speed at which this spiritual boat transforms into a green rainbow is incredible, at least dozens of times faster than Su Li's imperial sword. However, it can also be understood that in Taoist swordsmanship, it is often necessary to condense or refine one's energy before truly exerting its power. For example, Su Li's use of sword pills nowadays is more appropriate to control the sword than to control it. Trapped in a state of insufficient cultivation, although he had already understood the mystery of sword energy transforming into a rainbow, he could never use it. He could only transform the sword energy generated by the sword pill into a golden cloud and lift his body to fly low in the air. Although it seemed impressive, his power was scattered and lacked concentration, making it impossible to resist the strong wind. However, treasures like Tai Qingling boat do not have such troubles. There are mysteries of high and low mana, and compared to the Taibai sword sect, which only cultivates swordsmanship, they have gained a great advantage before refining evil spirits. However, in the early stage of cultivation, the Taibai sword sect was very fast. Even if there were not as many adventures as Su Li, and there were no elders who valued it, they relied solely on their own hard work. At most, it only took 20 years before they could start to condense their evil spirits. Of course, the Taibai sword sect has not yet had such a distressed disciple. Generally speaking, 10 years is enough for the innate magical power to be complete and able to condense evil spirits. However, the other 6 sects, or other influential clans like the Song family, would require at least 30 years of hard work to achieve complete innate qi cultivation. However, there are gains and losses. The Taoist techniques of the Taibai sword sect have made rapid progress in the early stages. When it comes to the 2 levels of becoming a pill and escaping calamity, there will be a huge pass, and the calamity will be several times heavier than others. Among them, the Gourd sword technique is the most extreme and has the heaviest fate. These things have already been told to Su Li by Immortal Qiao. If he is unwilling, Immortal Qiao can teach him other Taoist techniques. Su Li naturally wouldn't be ignorant, not to mention that the Gourd sword technique has been refined and completed by divine talismans, which is more in line with the Tao. Even without divine talismans, he wouldn't back down. The Gourd sword technique has many drawbacks, but its advantages are also extremely obvious. It has an extremely fast cultivation speed and strong combat power, making it a true method of killing and attacking. Once achieved, there are basically no opponents in the same level. Qiao Xian and the old monk are indeed the best friends, but as the old monk, other immortals of the Taibai sword sect and even the Zhong sect will not save his face. However, the old monk still asks him to apprentice to Qiao Xian and practice the most dangerous Gourd sword technique. This proves that this Taoist technique is probably the most suitable for him. Now it has also been proven that he is extremely compatible with this martial arts method. From being taught the sword technique to now, in just 6 days, his cultivation has become extremely mature. Although there are divine symbols to assist him, more importantly, the Hulu sword technique is really suitable for him. End of this chapter.